In the vast expanse of World War II, a conflict that engulfed the globe and redefined the boundaries of warfare, there exist numerous stories, strategies, and events that have been etched into the annals of history. However, amidst the well-documented narratives of the war's most pivotal battles and turning points, there lies a lesser-known chapter, a strategy so bold and daring that it has often been overshadowed by the more conventional military maneuvers of the time. This is the story of the Doolittle Raid, an operation that not only showcased the ingenuity and bravery of its participants, but also underscored the unpredictable nature of warfare during one of history's most tumultuous periods. To fully comprehend the significance and the context of the Doolittle Raid, it is essential to delve into the early stages of World War II, particularly focusing on the Pacific theater. By the end of 1941, the world was already deeply embroiled in conflict. In Europe, the Axis powers, led by Germany, Italy, and later joined by Japan, were making significant gains, expanding their territories through military conquest. The surprise attack by Japan on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, on December 7, 1941, drew the United States into the war, marking a significant turning point in the global conflict. The immediate aftermath of the Pearl Harbor attack saw a series of Japanese victories as they rapidly expanded their empire, capturing Singapore, the Philippines, and a swath of islands in the Pacific. The U.S. and its allies were on the defensive, struggling to absorb the shock of the initial attacks and regroup for a counteroffensive. It was during this period of strategic reassessment that the concept of the Doolittle Raid began to take shape. The idea was to launch a bombing raid on the Japanese mainland, a mission that would not only inflict material damage, but also serve as a profound psychological blow, demonstrating that the Japanese homeland was not invulnerable to attack. The planning of the Doolittle Raid was entrusted to Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle, a seasoned aviator with a reputation for innovative thinking and a penchant for daring operations. Doolittle was tasked with leading a team of volunteers, hand-picked from the U.S. Army Air Forces, to carry out the mission. The challenges were formidable. The bombers would have to take off from an aircraft carrier, a feat that had never been attempted before with fully loaded planes, and then fly over 600 miles to reach their targets in Japan, before proceeding to China, where they were expected to land safely, assuming all went according to plan. The preparation for the raid was meticulous and secretive. The volunteers underwent intensive training, learning how to take off from the short deck of an aircraft carrier and how to navigate the long, perilous journey to Japan and back. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy's Task Force 16, led by Admiral William F. Halsey, Jr., was assembling in the Pacific, ready to provide the necessary support for the operation. The aircraft carrier USS Hornet would serve as the launch point for the bombers, while other ships in the task force would offer protection against any potential Japanese naval counterattack. On April 2, 1942, the USS Hornet, along with its escorting ships, set sail from the port of Alameda, California, bound for the Western Pacific. On board the Hornet were 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers, each modified to carry additional fuel tanks and a reduced crew of 5, to maximize the range and payload for the long journey ahead. The crew members were aware of the risks involved. They knew that once they launched from the carrier, there would be no turning back, and their survival would depend on the success of the mission and the subsequent escape to China. The days that followed were filled with anticipation and tension as the task force sailed deeper into the Pacific. The original plan was to launch the bombers within 400 miles of the Japanese coast, ensuring that they had enough fuel to complete their mission and reach their designated landing sites in China. However, on the morning of April 18, 1942, the task force was spotted by a Japanese patrol boat, the Nito Maru, over 600 miles from Japan. Fearing that the element of surprise had been lost, and with the Japanese possibly preparing to intercept the bombers, the decision was made to launch the aircraft immediately, despite being farther from the target than planned. At 8 a.m., the first B-25, piloted by Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle himself, roared down the deck of the USS Hornet and into the air, followed at short intervals by the remaining 15 bombers. The takeoffs were a testament to the skill and bravery of the pilots, as they lifted their heavily loaded planes off the carrier's short deck and set a course for Japan. The crew of the USS Hornet and the other ships in the task force watched in awe as the bombers disappeared over the horizon, their fate and the success of the mission hanging in the balance. The flight to Japan was long and arduous, with the crew of each bomber focused on navigating through the unfamiliar skies and preparing for their bomb runs. At around noon, the first bombers began to reach their targets, which included Tokyo, Yokohama, and other major Japanese cities. The bombing runs were swift and decisive, with the B-25s dropping their payloads and then turning southeast, heading towards China. The Japanese air defenses were caught off guard, and although some bombers were intercepted by Japanese fighters, none were lost over the target areas. The aftermath of the Doolittle raid was a mix of elation and tragedy. The mission had been a success in terms of achieving its objectives. Significant damage had been inflicted on Japanese military and industrial targets, and the psychological impact on both the Japanese and American publics was profound. However, the escape to China proved to be more challenging than anticipated. Due to the early launch and resulting fuel shortages, several bombers were forced to crash land or ditch along the Chinese coast, with some crew members being captured by Japanese forces, who had quickly moved into the area in pursuit of the raiders. Of the 80 airmen who took part in the raid, 3 were killed in action, and 8 were captured by the Japanese, with 3 of those captured being executed. The Doolittle raid marked a turning point in the war in the Pacific, signaling a shift from defensive to offensive operations for the Allies. It also highlighted the innovative spirit and bravery of the individuals involved, who volunteered for a mission that was fraught with risk and uncertainty. For Lieutenant Colonel James H. Doolittle and his crew, the raid would go down in history as one of the most daring operations of World War II, a testament to the power of unconventional thinking and the indomitable will to challenge the impossible. In the broader context of World War II, the Doolittle raid served as a precursor to the island-hopping campaign that would eventually lead to the doorstep of the Japanese mainland. It demonstrated that the Japanese were not invincible and that their homeland could be reached and attacked, a fact that would have significant implications for the planning of future operations, including the eventual firebombing of Japanese cities and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The legacy of the Doolittle raid extends beyond the confines of World War II, serving as a model for future military operations that require creativity, daring, and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. It reminds us that in the ever-evolving landscape of warfare, the ability to adapt, innovate, and execute the unexpected can often prove to be the deciding factor between victory and defeat. As we reflect on the Doolittle raid and its place within the narrative of World War II, we are reminded of the complexity and the multifaceted nature of conflict. The story of the raid, with its blend of heroism, strategy, and sacrifice, encapsulates the essence of warfare, where the line between triumph and tragedy is often blurred, and where the actions of a few can have far-reaching consequences for the many. In conclusion, the Doolittle raid stands as a poignant reminder of the human element in warfare, where individuals, driven by duty, courage, and a shared purpose, can achieve the extraordinary against overwhelming odds. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of those who dare to challenge the norms, who push the boundaries of what is thought possible, and who, through their actions, leave an indelible mark on the course of history. The story of the Doolittle raid, with all its suspense, drama, and heroism, will continue to captivate and inspire, serving as a powerful reminder of the sacrifices made and the victories achieved during one of the most pivotal moments in human history.